It's been a bit of a week for Subnautica, hasn't it? I wasn't initially going to talk about this as I didn't really feel like I had that much to say, but after all the different statements we've had from Krafton, the Subnautica 2 team and the original founder himself, I thought I'd give you guys my take on the whole situation and how I feel about it. And just for future reference, this video is being recorded on the 6th of July, just in case we get any more information about this in the future. So what exactly happened? Well, the whole thing started on the 2nd of July when Krafton announced that there was going to be a major shake-up in the leadership at Unknown Worlds Entertainment, who are the developers of Subnautica. Krafton is a publishing company that has owned Unknown Worlds since 2021, purchasing the company after the release of Subnautica and Below Zero. At the time, Krafton stated the structure and leadership of Unknown Worlds will remain the same, where it will retain its unique creative identity. But as of a few days ago, that has all changed. The three members of the leadership team at Unknown Worlds, Charlie Cleveland, the studio's founder, Max Maguire, the company's co-founder, and Ted Gill, the company's president, have all been replaced with immediate effect, and replaced by Steve Popotis. I'm sorry, I probably just butchered your name. But he worked on the Callisto Protocol and the Dead Space games. And after what's fair to say was a bit of a backlash from this news, a letter was then released by the Unknown Worlds team, which didn't really say a lot to be honest, but stated that the game will remain a single player first experience with optional cooperative multiplayer, no subscriptions, no loot boxes, no battle pass, and no microtransactions. That was it. Nothing about why this change had actually happened and what led to the removal of the entire leadership team at Unknown Worlds, just a bit of trust us, nothing to see here, and that the game remains unchanged. I'm gonna be honest, this statement didn't really do anything for me. I know they had to say something, but it's just your typical company response when something goes wrong, just because they had to get some control of the narrative. We then got a Reddit post from the original founder of Unknown Worlds, Charlie Cleveland, which, while not saying anything specific about why this happened, did give us a few clues as to what might have been going on behind the scenes. In his statement, Charlie said, "So you can see why for Max, Ted, myself, the Unknown Worlds team, and for our community, the events of this week might have been quite a shock. We know that the game is ready for early access release and we know you're ready to play it. And while we thought this was going to be our decision to make, at least for now, that decision is in Krafton's hands. And after all these years, to find that I'm no longer able to work at the company I started stings." To me, this just says this was not a mutual breakup, especially with Max and Ted going as well. It sounds a bit like a power struggle, to be honest. It's possible one of them was going to be removed and the others quit in solidarity, but we just don't know. Now, this next part will be a bit of speculation on my part, so don't take this to be the truth of the matter, but what Charlie says about them being able to decide when the game goes into early access could be the key issue here. As when we look at Krafton's initial statement about the removal, it mentions development speed a number of times. They initially say that the new leadership will focus on development momentum, and Krafton's CEO would then go on to say, "There is nothing more important than the gamer experience. Given the anticipation around Subnautica 2, we owe our players nothing less than the best game as soon as possible." The Krafton statement also says, as part of its oversight, Krafton is committed to achieving regular milestones to assess progress across its creative studios. These reviews, based on clearly defined metrics and targets, will help us ensure that games meet both creative and quality standards. This process is essential to delivering the right game at the right time. Unknown World's new leadership fully supports this process and is committed to meeting player expectations. So that's at least 3 times in Krafton's statement where the speed of creating Subnautica 2 has been mentioned. Development momentum, the best possible game as soon as possible, and delivering the right game at the right time. Add this to Charlie's statement about getting to decide when the game is ready for early access, and I think we might be getting close to why this happened. It's possible that development has fallen behind schedule, or that the old leadership simply disagreed about when the game would be ready to be played by fans. Krafton could be eager for the game to come out as soon as possible, whereas the original team at Unknown Worlds wanted to take a more cautious approach. Hell, it's even possible it could be the other way round. We just don't know at this point. Maybe the original team thinks it's ready and Krafton thinks it needs longer, even though that's probably unlikely. So now that we know what's going on, what's my take on all of this? Well, I can't exactly say this has filled me with confidence about the game's development. This is a story we have seen time and time again in the gaming industry, and it doesn't normally end well, especially this far into a game's development cycle. Obviously, the team has been working on this for years now, so a lot of the groundwork will have been laid by Charlie, Max and Ted, which is a good thing, with them being the original creators. But I also don't buy that this will have absolutely no impact on the game at all. Sure, the developers at the coalface actually making the game are the same, which is great, but those guys still have tasks and objectives that are set by the senior leaders and managers, and if the priorities change at the top of the company, then so could the day-to-day focus of the developers actually making the game. This is no shade to the developers that I'm sure work hard every day and want the game to be as good as it can be, and it's definitely not their fault. I actually feel kind of bad that some idiots will probably send them some rude messages about this, which is totally not cool by the way. But I also think it's a bit naive to think that changing the whole leadership of the company will have no impact on the final game it produces. I mean, if it wouldn't have any effect, why bother to remove them at all? This is also nothing personal against Steve. I wish him well and I hope that he can lead Unknown Worlds effectively moving forward, but I imagine he's going to have quite the workload, as I assume he's now doing 3 persons jobs, as he's the only one that seems to have been brought in to fix whatever issue was going on here. I think he's going to have an uphill battle, especially due to how he's come into the company, which again is not his fault, but fans don't always think logically about these things. Ultimately, in my opinion, the people that founded Unknown Worlds and made the original Subnautica and Below Zero probably know their IP better than anyone else, and the way in which they've been removed just makes me feel uneasy. It seems from Charlie's post that they were just as shocked about this as we were, and with them being removed immediately, not even with a month or 2 handover period, really sounds like whatever issues these were, they must have been serious. Especially as Crafton says they tried to keep the trio on board. To me it looks like a power struggle at the top of the company, with the original leadership being at loggerheads with the publisher in a fight that they were unfortunately never going to win. If I'm right about the development speed being the issue here, and it seems that way from what we've seen so far, my key main point is that I do not want this game rushed. Yes, we all want to play Subnautica 2 as soon as possible, but I don't want a game just for the sake of it. I want the game to be good, and if the game needs longer in the oven, then that's what it needs. What I don't want is a game that comes out undercooked and leaves a bad taste in everyone's mouths, because that will take even more work to fix and damage the solid community that we've built here. I just wish we had more information about why this decision has been made, as a vacuum with no real answer will inevitably lead people to jump to the worst possible conclusions. I'm still cautiously optimistic about Subnautica 2. As I said, a lot of the groundwork has already been laid, so the roots of the founders' original vision are going to run deep, and that's not something you can just rip out. The day-to-day developers remain the same, and it seems that progress is still being made. Remember that none of the developers the community can actually interact with were responsible for this decision, so try to be kind to them. They probably don't feel good about this either. Although I can totally understand why everyone is unnerved by this, and that many people will now wait and see the reviews before jumping into the game, and I can't really say that I blame them. Unfortunately, unless we get any more information in the near future, then this is probably going to be all we really have to go on. And I can see that all parties involved will likely want to let the dust settle on this for a while, as it's definitely been a bit controversial. But I wish Steve and the remaining team at Unknown Worlds all the best as they continue to develop the game. We're all still behind you and believe you're making the best game you can. Finally, I just wanted to say a big thank you to Charlie, Max and Ted for all your work over the years on Subnautica and for making such an amazing world for us to dive in and explore. While this might be the end for now, I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with in the future, and I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for it. So what do you guys think about this news? Will you still be jumping into Subnautica 2 at launch, or are you going to be a bit more cautious? Let me know down below. And I've also left links to all the articles I've discussed today down in the description. And I'll see you guys next time. And special thanks to my patrons, Matthias, Graham DeLoye, Baron Windy and Immortal for making this video possible.